my brothers and sisters. I want to say happy Easter to you on this Sunday afternoon. My name is Ward Smith. I'll be your host today, and we do have a co-host, which I'll be bringing on here just in a sec. First of all, I'd like to say this is the Black News Network, the real voice of Black U.S.A, broadcasting the news on a weekly basis to Black America. We take the news and change it to a point where we can hear and we can understand what it's all about in our community. It takes a while, but it takes a lot. So before we proceed, go down to the and subscribe to us on YouTube. Um, Get us on Twitter, get us on Facebook. Be involved in what we are. Today's topic is building a black nation in the United States of America. We have 50 states in this country. Every single state is we would like to have supplies spiders together. You can bring down a bird. You can bring down an eagle. Also, spider webs that are out there. Silk is a very, very strong item. We are silk. All we have to do is creating all the spider webs. Before we go into the discussion and before I introduce our co-host today, I want to tell you about which is Easter is the full moon equinox. It's always the first Sunday in the spring. After it's the first Sunday after the moon, and normally the Sunday in the spring. Its name Islam. Islam is the goddess of the and it's also big. You always wonder why the rabbit is there, but the rabbit is there because of prolific reproductive qualities. Rabbits reproduce muscle. Look at them swinging thing on earth. That's a mammal. So we are talking about the star, the goddess of fertility. We're talking about the eggs, the symbol of life and stability. And we're talking about the rabbit because of the reproduction. So the Catholic Church puts this together and they just use this as a way to name Christianity in other ways. So everybody celebrates Christianity. But it's really anyway, I wanted to use it. Most of us know we celebrate. This is the Black U.S.A. But in order to get that, it's going to take a hell of a lot of work from our part. And I heard something this week that's who cares about the black community? In other words, who is out there saying we need to pull the vote together, we need to improve our community, we need to do this and do that. And listen to people saying that if people got money, they don't give a shit about the damn community. They worry about their damn money. So you always see marginalized and very few successful people involved in the fight to balance the load from poor or the people that are struggling to get out of poverty. So with that, I want to applaud on
Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
You heard me in the beginning, right?
I can't hear you. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me? Okay, I can hear you now a little bit.
All right. Maybe I can get a little closer to the mic and put a little more volume on it. Can you hear that?
I can hear you now.
All right. That would probably be the problem. So I'm going to remove myself and allow you go ahead and take over the show and talk about where we need to go when it comes to creating a black state.
Well, Brother Bay, thanks for hosting this show. And thanks for allowing me to talk a little bit about this subject. My proposition is clear, and it's direct and to the point that the black descendants of the Great Migration, as many as possible, should return to the South, from which their ancestors fled. And I say this using my own state of Alabama as an example. Right now in the state of Alabama, we have in the Senate, we have 27 Republicans, 8 Democrats. In the House, we have 77 Republicans, 28 Democrats. And so since African Americans are aligned with the Democratic Party, and that's a majority Republican state, where's our power? Where's the influence that we have? But Alabama, as well as Mississippi, currently have 26 and 36% African American populations, respectively. And let me just give a little backdrop on something. Black folks ain't going back to Africa. In 1812, a Negro sea captain, Paul Caffey of Massachusetts, took 38 Negroes aboard one of his own vessels and set sail for Sierra Leone. Within a few years of Coffey's experiment, the American Colonization Society was founded under the leadership of such prominent slaveholders as John C. Calhoun, Henry Clay, John Randolph, and Bashar Washington. They persuaded Congress to purchase property in Africa named Liberia after the word liberty, and its capital Monrovia after President Monroe. But at the very time, it was attacked by other African American leaders as not being workable. So I say that to say this: Black folks ain't leaving this country. I mean, we've never left. We're not going back to Africa. So we're in a political paradigm, meaning that every state has 2 senators, Every state has representatives based on their population. And right currently, we don't have any majority black states. The closest to a black state we have, and it's not really a state, is the District of Columbia. We've had black governors in majority uh, Anglo states, Massachusetts, and now Maryland. But we don't have a majority black state. 65% of African Americans live in the South. 55 to 60% still live in the South. So I'm talking about this reverse migration from the North back to the South is not impossible and could produce the results that we need. Because until we control our own destinies, and to some of the points that you've made in the past about, and you have a map that shows all the black towns and how they were destroyed. So having black towns is not the answer. Just like going back to Africa is not the answer. Because if we create black towns again, they're going to be destroyed. Yeah, thanks for putting up the map. All these were black communities in majority white states, and we see what happened to them. So America is a federation of states. Every state has two senators. Right now, we don't control any piece of that federation. We don't control not one state, even in the states that we are all like Mississippi, like Alabama, like Georgia. So we're not talking about it. We're not talking about going back to Africa. We're not talking about creating black towns. We're talking about political power and the control of the education, economic, political resources in that particular state where we have the power and where we have control. So that is basically my argument. Uh, Young people, I think that once this message is out, people are already moving back to places like Atlanta. They're moving back to Mississippi. I read the Mississippi Freedom Free Press every day, and they profile young entrepreneurs that are moving back. But I think it has to be a concerted effort because, brother, we ain't going nowhere. And so we've been trying to come together as a people since I think it was 1972 in Gary, Indiana, when we first tried. But since our community is so split, and especially the political aspect of it, we've never been able to put together a black agenda. So that's my argument for a black state. I think it's doable. I think you put up the map. You show the bridge over Selma and the sacrifices that those 600 souls made in 1965 for the right to vote. And we've been voting since 1965. And when it comes to the political, educational, economic outlook of Black Americans, it's not too much different than it was in 1965. With all this voting we've done for over 50 years. So I think a new approach, a new vision is needed. And like I say, since we're not going anywhere, and history says that we're not going anywhere, and the gatekeepers are not going to let us go anywhere because they're gonna criticize any movement to go anywhere, and 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 you got too many black folks. We're American. I mean, let's face it, we are American. So we know black cities and towns won't work. We know that just voting alone won't work. So this is a viable option, I think, for us to take a region of the country where we're already the majority and create a majority black state.
That's a beautiful, beautiful synopsis of what we should do here in America. A couple of points that you mentioned that I'd like to reiterate. The first one is that you're absolutely right. We do need a new approach because we've been going at this thing the same damn way since 1960, and you can see where it's gotten us in 2024. Nowhere. We're in the same predicament, if not in a worse predicament than we were in 1964.
We're last in every category:
Last,
politically,
that is so sad.
educationally, economically, income, wealth creation. We're still last.
Ownership, everything. We're last in every single area of existence in America. Something I wanted to talk about, and I'm just going to read about three of these things, and it speaks almost directly to what you would like to see Black as open up state, because we're already on the front. And the first thing I want to say is that this state, this country has never intended for us to be a vital source of existence in on this continent. They they have looked at us as if we did not exist. I mean, when we started to become prevalent, that's when they started to create different programs to keep us from being prosperous, from
Well,
having power. But
well, and you talk about this quite often. The 14th Amendment supposedly gave us the right to full citizenship. The right to vote, the 15th Amendment supposedly gave us the right to vote. Public Accommodations Civil Rights Act of 1875, we've been at this for a long time. The 1964 Civil Rights Act, which, why did we need the 1964 Civil Rights Act when we already had the Civil Rights Act of 1875? The 1965 Voting Rights Act, why did we need the Voting Rights Act when we already had the 15th Amendment? The 1968 Housing Act, why did we need the 68 Housing Act when we had the Public Accommodations Act in 1875? I mean, does this just go on and on? Is this just what government does for us, just pass meaningless laws that don't never fulfill their full meaning because of the people that control the levels of power? Are we going to continue into the abyss? We've lived 50 years. Is our generation of sons and daughters going to be talking about this 50 years from now? But their look back is going to be 100 instead of our look back being 60 some years. So since we ain't going nowhere, since America ain't going to create no new state on our behalf or really do nothing on our behalf, let's take advantage of this federalist system. And black folks that migrated during the Great Migration because of the terror and because of what happened in all those black towns need to move back south strategically.
we realize that it's
Not just come back, but come back in a strategic sense. Are we going to focus on Georgia? Is the focus going to be on Atlanta? I mean, on Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana?
so right
Because
now Mississippi has the highest percentage of black people. Is that correct? I think they got 62%.
I mean, because the state controls the levers of power, of money, of resources, of access to a better quality. The states, not the people. We don't even elect the president. Electors do. We don't have direct elections. So until somebody can come up with, I mean, we got majority minority districts, right? And you think that they did that strategically so that we wouldn't have power that would be all centralized. We got 21, no, how many? We got 50 something representatives, members of the Congressional Black Caucus. And to show you how messed up it is politically, if you're a black Republican, you can't join the Congressional Black Caucus. If you're a white person and you got 90 some percent black constituents like they do in Memphis' second congressional district, headed by a white representative, he can't join the Congressional Black Caucus because he's not black and he represents 90 some percent African American. It's a quirky, unworkable bullshit democracy in its current format as it relates to African American. It ain't gonna change. We gotta change it. We gotta take over. We gotta take over a state and all the power that goes with that state, that's guaranteed by this Constitution, is ours. So we can have those black communities, those black cities. We can have an education system that doesn't exclude, but that includes us. We can have a economic system that allows our businesses to grow and prosper. We can take advantage of the resources that the government have, so they're not sent to a state like Mississippi and misused like they did with those welfare funds. Millions of dollars that was designated for people that needed it and was used for the benefit of the privileged. And since we're not going back to Africa, one, we can't come together as a people, two, because of the politics. What other option do you think we have?
We don't have another option. I mean your idea is the only option we have for us to change the
Well, I was talking about it, but there's a more prominent person than me talking about it. That's Charles Blow, who's from Louisiana, by the way, who actually left New York and moved back to Georgia. So he practicing what he's preaching. I mean, we're here in Texas. Texas got more African Americans than any state in the union, but we don't have no power.
Is Charles Blow a millionaire?
We got 1% of the contracts that the state parcels out every year, less than 1%. Less than 1%. We have in any of the constitutional offices, you don't have nobody that look like you and me in a state that's got more black folks than anywhere else in the country. See, this ain't one of the states. This ain't one of the states that black folks fled in the Great Migration. Black folks was not out here. They fled the South, and the South is where they should return strategically.
So, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Is Mr. Blow a millionaire?
No, he graduated from Grambling, and he worked for the New York Times editorial as an editorial writer, and he decided to. And I really didn't know about Charles Blow and his movement because I had been preaching this all along. Because from a political standpoint, and looking at all of our options and looking at history, what other option do we have?
Does he have a web page or any information?
No, but he has a book out. I shared it a couple of weeks ago. It's called The Devil You Know. And I would encourage the readers to get a copy of it. It's not expensive. You can get it on Amazon. But it kind of just lays out his position on this issue.
Creating a black state.
Right. And he gives a little bit more background and stuff like that.
Name again?
Charles Blow. And because we've been Americanized and we've been economized and we've been educationalized to fit the white man's agenda. And those that can rise, the more they agree with that agenda, rise. But the majority of us don't.
But we don't know what to do.
Well, no, because what most black people have done is just withdrawn from politics, don't even vote. Look at the turnout numbers. Look who's winning elections. Look at the margins they're winning. Are they truly representative of the masses of people? Do you think that the government in Mississippi is truly representative of the 30, almost 36% African American population in Mississippi? People are not voting
And they always say they're going to bring up a jury of our peers, and that has never happened.
because America, the South is the South is the South. Black people fled the South. Why did we why did we flee? Why did we flee the South?
A lack of advantages, the disrespect, the discriminatory
Terror?
behavior.
No, terror.
Yeah,
The South attitude. The South's attitude after the Civil War was the the North freed you, so let the North feed you. And so we fled the South because the South had no intention of doing anything for its formerly enslaved people.
and they didn't. And the worst part about it, the United States re-empowered all the Confederate generals and landowners back into power.
Well, the land they after the Freedom Bureau was disbanded, our federal government betrayed us. They gave the land back to the former slave owners.
Yep.
They gave the land back.
Expected them to do right by us, which they had no expectation whatsoever. Mr. Rockefeller wrote some stuff that before way back in the 1940s, and I just want to read three little short verses of what he said. He said, "We will keep their lifespans short and their minds weak while pretending to do the opposite. We will use our knowledge of science and technology so as to they will know, they will never know what is happening. We will use soft metals against aging accelerators and sedatives in the form of water and in the air, in the food, water, and air." Now, what is that saying? That's saying let's screw this entire damn population.
Well, and you got to understand, after the Civil War, the losers didn't go. They didn't just go down. It's just like the Three-Fifth Compromise. They knew that they were in a part of the country where black folks were the majority. In fact, after the Civil War, Mississippi, Louisiana, and South Carolina were majority black states. So,
They
so
had that election, and all these people that they elected were black. But the white man figured
right,
that.
but that's when the terror reign began.
Mhm.
That's when the Great Migration took place because they knew that those states were majority black. And if you gave them a franchise, if the franchise was allowed to be kept in place, that they would have controlled those states. So
So
that map you put up in that terrorizing period, what do you think that was designed for? To get blacks out of the South.
mhm, it was terrible.
It wasn't designed to kill them because if they just wanted to kill them, they would have. They just they killed enough to terrorize, and the rest moved on their own.
Mhm. They ran them up out
And what, and what did they move to?
of North.
Most blacks, most blacks, if they left the North, don't even have a home to go back to. They was in apartments. Whole generations grew up in Caprina Green. You can't go home
And
to Caprina Green.
we lost
It's gone. They can't go back home. Same thing in St. Louis.
my grandfather was 94 and had never owned a home. He lived in Chicago. He was part of that migration.
Yeah,
And he got ran off of the plantation down in Mississippi.
yeah. If you go to Chicago now, Caprina Green it's been gentrified. Them apartments torn down. I don't know where the black folks went.
They spread them out so they didn't have any power like they
Yeah.
always do. They died
They,
like
they didn't have any power, any say so in their government. And I'm and in 1972 in Gary, Indiana, black folks, the clergy, the religious leaders. You remember the activists, everybody came together in Gary to try to come up with a black agenda. This is in 1972.
I have a question
It
for you.
fell apart because the Democrats, the racist party,
Mm.
the Democrats are the racists.
Yeah,
They were the
okay.
racists then, and they're the racists now.
I have a question for you. We have tried to get this stuff moving in our direction, but every effort has failed. So, what could possibly be the very first process we use to get people to come back? Or is there a process?
I, I think the same process that uh, the Chicago Defender, the same process of education. See, part of the problem in this country is the the, the, the education system has not created a mindset for black empowerment. It's created a mindset for black empowerment. And right now, that mindset for for white empowerment through black faces is winning. And so I think we just gotta, just like the people that were fighting for our freedom back in the day, uh, they didn't have shows like this, but they was writing articles, they was had leaflets, they was saturating the communities. It's got to be that same ground level kind of discussion
All right,
to
so
get people to thinking.
we have thousands of churches. We have thousands of fraternal organizations. What what are our chances of getting all these churches, all these fraternities to at least meet once a year in every city or major city? Do we
Well,
have to know?
Well, one of the things I think, people like the Charles Blow and this show and others, I think that is, I mean, when you look at our infrastructure, especially in the South, it's the black church. And, but I don't know whether the black church really represents black folks anymore. I think since the government then got involved and created these not for profit churches, and they're, even though they're not for profit, believe me, brother, they're all about profit. They may say that they don't pay taxes. They're not for profit, but they're all about profit and not the community that they. In fact, many of the churches are not even in the communities where the people live, especially the mega churches. So I think it's got to be a grassroots kind of thing. I think talking about it, engaging conversations,
It's grassroots.
maybe getting grassroots organizations. I mean, that's what Charles Blow does. He's got a much bigger platform and might than we do.
What is
But
grassroots, though? What is that?
huh?
What is grassroots?
Well, for me, grassroots used to be uh, growing up in Alabama. I mean, I thought grassroots meant organizations like the NAACP, the Urban League. I thought grassroots was the fraternity that I belonged to. I thought grassroots was the Masonic order that I belonged to. I thought grassroots meant those kind of organizations that really cared about the community. So I should be able to walk into my local chapter and talk about this issue and say, brother, help me spread the word. But I'm at odds right now because I support Cornell West and the fraternity, the organization, even though it's a nonprofit. I'm sure most of the brothers are supporting the Democrat.
You know it.
I'm blindly supporting the Democrat. I'm not supporting Trump, but I think I think we should have other options. I think we should flex our muscle. We're 56 million people. If somebody valued us, we should flex that so we increase our value. Our communities are devalued, our bodies are devalued, our minds are still devalued. So So I think the same tools that the abolitionists used to get the word out, the same message that the Chicago Defender used to get the message to South for folks to move north. I think we got to use the same tools in an updated version, social media, uh, Facebook, and those kind of avenues to get the word out to encourage people to go back. I think that's the start. I mean, so we don't have to create a new venue. We just modernize what worked before. This show is part of that modernization.
So if everybody didn't want to move back to Mississippi or Alabama, would you still recommend that they move back to the South?
I'm saying the people that left during the Great Migration, they're those people should move back. Remember, the South is still almost 66% black today. It's just that there's no state. It's that where the majority of black folks are now: Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and probably South Carolina. We have no real power.
Well, don't you
I
think?
mean, I mean, if you really want to think about it, if you really want to think, I mean, look at it from a historical standpoint. What is the difference in Mississippi and Alabama now versus during right during the Civil War? I mean, right after the Civil War, when blacks had the majority of the power. Actually, we was in a stronger position right after the Civil War than we are today.
Yeah, we were stronger then. We were
Uh,
very.
Alabama had black folks in the legislature, Mississippi, and I mean Congress, in the Senate, Mississippi. Some black folks helped wrote some of the constitutions. I'm just saying now because we've allowed ourselves to be corrupted by this two-party system that the South has taken away any power that we have, and the politicians don't even come South to try to win the South. I can see if they tried. They're not trying to win Mississippi. They know they can't. They don't spend a dime. So the population of Mississippi gets farther and farther disengaged from politics, and the people that work against them just stay in power. The same thing in Alabama. They don't spend no money to galvanize voters in Alabama. And so voters stop voting, and the people that want to harm us stay in power. That system, that's an unworkable future for us. Why do you think they only concentrate on Pennsylvania, Arizona because of the growth out there with Hispanics? They only that's where they spend that $26 million they spend. They ain't spending that in Mississippi. They ain't spending that in Louisiana. They ain't spending that in Alabama. They don't give a shit about black folks. They didn't give a shit about us after the Civil War, and they don't give a shit about us now. And because we are black people with this white mask on, and we become so Americanized, we can't say it, or we don't want to say it, or there's consequences for saying it. And yet people like Chuck continue to suffer, and the people that he represent who are growing in numbers continue to suffer, and then buy into this rhetoric, and nothing ever changes. And those of us know better, we should do better. We should educate folks. I mean, I'm telling you, you got if 66% of the folks still in the South, that means every person in the North got a relative somewhere in the South. Hell, when I was growing up in Mississippi during the holidays, I mean growing up in Alabama during the holidays, that's all you saw was license plates from Mississippi, Illinois, Michigan, New York,
Milwaukee,
especially Wisconsin. I got relatives.
Hopefully you'll come back soon. You froze for a second, but I don't think it'll be for long. So as soon as you're ready, come on back in and start talking. But in the meantime, I'll tell
Can
you.
you, can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying that we don't have any other. I haven't heard or haven't seen any other viable options that will produce real power for a large population of black folks. We got the numbers. We have the numbers. We have the ability. You know, it's like I'll give you a good example of why I say we're in this fight together. Black folks are trying to get them Confederate statues off of Stone Mountain, Georgia, right? But them statues were offensive to the Asians, to the Hispanics, to the Jew groups out there trying to remove them statues. But us, I, I had an experience last night. I went to took my daughter to get some ice cream, and this little Asian girl was behind the counter, and I had to put her in her place. Man, she had such a superior attitude to. A customer came in the store, and we already in the store, and she gonna serve the customer that just came in, and gonna try to tell me that call-in orders had priority over people standing in line. I said, shouldn't the call-in order stand in line as well? And she left the counter and went into the back room and stayed, never came back out. And then another young lady came up to the counter, and then she went and started serving customers at the window. I said, that little heifer. And I said, I asked the other, I said, you all need to do something about her attitude. I said, is she related to the manager or anything? And the young lady was helping us, had to smile and say, no, she's not. That's how we're treated in America. White folks do it, and immigrants come in and they copy the white folks and see how they talk to us and treat us, and then they mimic that same attitude.
When we get them in a quagmire, the first thing they want to do is call the police.
I went home to Alabama. You got a Chinese restaurant in Selma, Alabama, which is 84% black, talking to black folks like they crazy. I'm in line. I'm got to tell everybody in line, y'all ain't got to take this crap.
Get out of line. I mean, that's what our problem is. We continue to support these people and spend our money in their places as if it doesn't matter. And it matters tremendously. I don't spend my money in those places. I can only say Walmart and HEB.
Yeah.
I mean, no, so damn big, I really have to go see them.
But, yeah, we do have the power of our purse, but I think, but Brother Bay, I think in some of our communities they don't have those options. They don't have the option. They got to go to the little neighborhood market.
Chinese food, you know.
If you came down here and I took you into this big housing project right across from Texas South, they got these little shops in there. It's a public housing unit, right? CUNY Homes. And they got these little stores in there, right? All run by Asians. You go in there, you got the Asian female behind the counter. You got the dad standing over there in the other corner with a shotgun.
Damn.
This is a neighborhood store. This is inside the
black community. It's the black community, right? I mean, my hometown the same way. All the Asians own all the stores: the grocery store, the clothing store, the laundromat, the dry cleaners. I mean, every damn thing was owned by the Asians. Even the Asians had the opportunity to go to the white school, and none of us had that opportunity. They school down before they allowed any of us.
Our southern states are being run like modern day plantations.
But why would they not run it like that? These people know what they need to do to keep us in check. It's been a 200, 300, 400-year plan.
I mean, but look what the laws do. Look at Benny Thompson's district in your home state. It goes from Jackson all the way up through the Delta, almost to the Memphis, Tennessee border. And they put all the black folks in his one district. and to create a majority black district. But where's the power in that?
Do
Where's
you
the
think
power
that
in one?
we are
Where's
out
the power
there?
in one black? You got symbolic power. You got a person that looked like you. Benny Thompson couldn't stop the state of Mississippi. He's a congressman from spending that money and giving it to Brett Favre. He couldn't stop that.
So how many? I mean, you can imagine how many black people in power are against Benny Thompson. Many of them.
Yeah.
Any black person that's on their way up, you're gonna probably be brought down by sellout black people.
Yeah.
And that's been our biggest.
Well, like I say, man, black folks tried to go to Africa twice. Well, many times, even before coffee, even before Haiti. And I'm kind of glad. I'm kind of glad they didn't go to Haiti because I mean, Haiti named after a white president, Monrovia, President Monroe. You know, what's up with that? They was trying to get rid of black folks. So I don't blame black folks for not wanting to go. My attitude is, man, this is our country as much as anybody else's. And until we gain the, until we get power within that infrastructure, nobody says anything about majority white states like Wyoming and Utah and all them places.
Iowa,
That ain't an issue.
Idaho,
Idaho,
uh,
half the country, because
Maine.
half the country is east of the Mississippi. The other half is west, and then everybody else is in the northeast. But us, it's all white. Nobody say nothing about that. We got 50 majority white, well, 49 majority white states, because I think Alaska and Hawaii are 48 are not majority white.
But give us a game plan. Where do we? What's the first step we should take?
Well, I think the game plan, I think the first step is education. I think the first step is, you know, I talk about this at meetings amongst colleagues on the phone. So I think education is the first thing, creating awareness. Maybe education is too strong, but making people aware that this is an option. And then referring them and then giving them some data, some data points. And then referring them to people that are pushing this idea, so something that they can read. I wish I had the money to buy every black person in America this book. Doing some writings and stuff like that. But I think that's how it starts. But that would be my, because I think it would be fruitless to take this idea to the fraternities, to its sororities, because our institutions have been so Americanized, so white Americanized, because that's who founded them. So the same people that prevented coffee and the same people that prevented the Marcus Garvey from trying to get his people back to Africa, those people still are in this country. Those black folks are still here.
So, are you saying that the church has been Americanized?
I'm saying the church has been. I don't even attend church, and I grew. There isn't a southern. My church was probably 2 or 3 doors down from the house. My daddy was a deacon at there. My mother sung in the choir and church secretary. I grew up in the church. So the church was an integral part of my development. So, and I think for all black folks, because that was always our safe spot. The church allowed us to organize politically. I remember sitting in Tabernacle Baptist Church listening to Dick Gregory. That's why, until his death, I had been friends with him. When I became the regional director for the NAACP, he was one of the first persons I called when I had my first convention in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to be the guest speaker. And he came, didn't charge me a dime. And so I think the church has been an integral part, but I don't think that we give the church a pass. I think that's where the majority of black folks still go. I think that's where the majority of black folks still get their information, a lot of it. And so I think the church has a role. I know quite a few pastors. I've talked to pastors and stuff like that. Uh, but like right here in Houston, the pastors here, one of the coalition pastors of one of the pastor organizations just got elected to city council. They have a conservative agenda. You know, think about it. Biden just announced Transgender Awareness Day on Easter weekend. He just announced that Transgender Awareness Day. What the what? What the what? Every church in this country should have every church in this country should have stood up and said something. Every black politician should have stood up and said, "What?" But our institutions have been so politicized that they can't. They're not going to criticize because if the church criticized the IRS,
When these decisions are made, it just seems like the country just goes along without balking at it or trying to turn it over. You know, how did he know that? What made him do that? Did everybody agree with it, or did he do that on his own?
well, it's like I told Chuck, and like I'll tell you, the Congressional Black Caucus gets all their money from corporate donors. Okay, when you look at the black community, when you look at the type of businesses, when you look at the predatory type businesses in the black community, who do you think those companies make donations to? Members of the CBC. Who do you think funds CBC Weekend? And CBC Foundation director a few years ago was quoted. She said at the time, now this wasn't a CBC politician, it was a CBC Foundation executive director who does the fundraising. She said black people gonna smoke, drink, and gamble anyway, so why not take money from those institutions that undermine the black community? That's that's what we're dealing with, man. You know, that's what we're dealing with.
Oh, it's gotta be a way to get to first base.
Well, like I say, first base is what we're talking about. It's a new first base, it's a new game.
Mhm.
It ain't trying to organize the Democrats or organize the churches or bring in all the different. It's got to be a people-led movement. People got to come back. We don't want the we don't want the NAACP to relocate in the South. We don't want the Urban League to relocate in the South. You know, they're not going to go. They're not going. Why do you think the headquarters is in New York for the Urban League? The headquarters used to be in New York for the NAACP. They're in Baltimore, but now they're going back to Washington, D.C. So they're up there for a reason because their founders were from the founders of those organizations wasn't from the South.
Do
And
you
so
see the benefit of the NAACP now?
the NAACP represents 250,000 people. There are 56 million African Americans. What gives the NAACP its power is the white world, the white press, the white financiers, the white corporations, and they allow the NAACP to be the spokesperson for black people. They
So,
allow it.
what does the Reverend Al Sharpton do? Is he part of us the transition?
Well, look at Reverend Al. I mean, look how he's been. Look how he's been corrupted.
Who is that?
Reverend Al. You
About
know,
money.
if the black press allows you to make money, there's certain things you can and cannot say and do, and there's a party line that you got to go along with. I don't care whether it's the NAACP, the Urban League, uh, sororities and fraternities that have these that need money to operate, that raise money for their educational foundations and stuff. All corporate donors.
Would you think we need to organize a conference?
Huh?
Would you
I
think
missed.
we need to organize a conference?
I think we do. I think we could help people like Charles Blow by inviting speakers like him to come to a conference to talk about this. Because right now his focus is on just his where I differ a little bit from him is I don't think it should just be the folks that migrated north during the Great Migration. I think strategically our placement in the South should be shifted. Whether blacks move from Mississippi to Alabama, but I think it has to be strategic.
And yeah, and how do we show people where they should go? I mean, we need to show something. That, look,
Well,
this
I,
is the idea
well, I don't.
for black people to move.
Well, I
So
don't.
they,
I don't
Natchez or Jackson or any other place that we can specifically say we need black people to move.
well, one way we do it because it's not going to be us. It's going to be young people.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
we're past doing something like that. It's going to be young people. I think educating. We still got a structure of black institutions in this country, historically black colleges and universities. We still there are still some churches out there that 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 can help. So I think is there a blueprint written yet? No, I don't think that there's a blueprint. Is there some kind of numbers counter somewhere saying, okay, Mississippi needs 100,000 families to move, and then you check off 100,000, 999,000, 998,000. That blueprint is not out there. Just like the blueprint when the defender was telling everybody to come north, there was no numbers counter nowhere. They just showed up. And but I think it's got to be strategic in the kind of sense in the people that showed up in the north during the Great Migration didn't have any resources, were treated like shit when you got there. We got enough black infrastructure in these states that won't happen this time. When the Jews go, when the Jews have their whole infrastructure. Any Jew in the world can go to Israel. Any Jew, right? I'm sure you got a Jewish community right there in San Antonio. You got the Jewish school. You got the Jewish banks. So a Jew moving to San Antonio got a whole infrastructure to help them get settled.
yeah.
We ain't got to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is already out there. We just got to become part of it. But we're not. We don't have that. That's why Chuck complains about the people at the bottom of the well feel like nobody really, because we don't have no infrastructure. Because our black folks have been so, our middle class black folks wear this mask. They're black, but they got a white mask on, my brother. They see you and they don't see you. So we gotta, I mean, trying to remove that mask. I don't know how we do it, but I'm saying that the models are already out there. Every community got a model that's working, but us. The Pakistanis, when they come here, they running politics in Houston. They making more money than the Asians are making. Every group that's come here as immigrants have bypassed. What are we doing wrong? Every group that has come here, Asians, Hispanics, Indians, Pakistanis,
Chinese,
Chinese, got a high income, higher education level than we have. We are still compressed into underperforming, predatory black, so-called black communities. They're not really black communities. It's just where these cities put the people that are marginalized. Immigrants come there so they can go in the suburbs and buy a house and put 5 families in a house. They help each other. They don't stay there. So, I think our voice, I think our passion. since we both come out of that world, military world, college world, I think we have the. I think we just have to continue to spread that message, man. Uh, but like I say, there's no. Could the Urban League be the guiding post? Could they do in reverse what they did? I don't know. I mean, they every year they publish a book. I got the report every year about how bad things are. I mean, could they relocate to Atlanta and become that? What they could they do in Atlanta? What they done in New York? I mean, you got enough black folks in Atlanta to support them. Could the Urban League relocate to Atlanta? Could the NAACP relocate? If 60% of black folks are in the South, why the hell is the NAACP in the North? If 60 some percent of the black folks are in the South, why the hell is the Urban League in New York? So I think we need a restructuring of our organizations. I mean, I think Charles Blow, maybe he needs to sit down with Mark Mariel, who's from the South, and relocate the Urban League. Because the original parameters of why the Urban League was created don't exist no more. It was created to help the uneducated, uninformed, unknowledgeable black folks that was doing the forced migration. That dynamic don't exist anymore. So why are they still there? We don't need to tell them. We don't need the Urban League to tell us every year why that we're doing worse than everybody else. We need a new mission. And that new mission is to help create black political power in the South. So these are the kind of discussions we need to have, my brother. I mean,
and I agree with you 125%. We've been too Americanized. We've lost touch with our ancestry, and we don't know who we really are. And that's what our problem is. We're not focused on our agenda. We're on everybody else's agenda, especially the corporate doctrine that we practice for the last couple of years. We need to start practicing our own doctrine.
If they're putting out the same report every year, let's give them a new mission. Let's give the NAACP a new mission. Let's black people, we do have money now. Let's rely less on corporate donations for our civil rights organizations so that they can truly be a voice for the communities they claim to represent instead of just being a mouthpiece for corporate America.
Won't see the NAACP ever becoming our voice for Black America.
I mean, what's the NAACP in San Antonio famous for? A banquet every year. They come out all nice and dressed up, but they're not helping people like Chuck. They're not fighting for equality in San Antonio.
No, they're not.
They're not fighting for equality here in Houston. The Houston branch is the largest branch in the state, and they only got 3, brother.
They got 3,000.
It's the largest branch in the state, and they only got 3,000 members, and the majority of those are life members, meaning that they're probably not active. So our pillars are weak. Our infrastructure pillars are weak.
It's by design, though, Claude. I mean, what else do you expect when you take out the Black Panthers, you take out Martin, you take out Malcolm, you take out Medgar, you keep taking out people that could have put us in the right trajectory. But you killed it before it even got off the ground. We don't have the direction.
And that's why we got to have that. You think Mississippi would? You think Alabama would have guards at the border if they saw a horde of black folks moving back?
Hell yeah!
They probably say it has something to do with public safety.
Yeah,
and they could do that because they could say, well, like they can control it. Yeah.
When you drive to California, you got checkpoints before you can go into the state.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Some of the states out west because they don't want certain uh, things that come out there that could infect the cattle or infect whatever
agriculture.
crops and stuff like that. Yeah, so they have checkpoints.
So they'll put that in Mississippi in a heartbeat when they see the population growing.
Yeah, because why we have we don't we have a census. The government know where every black person is.
Did you fill out your census paper?
I think I did. I think I did. I do remember the guy knocking on the door. Did you fill out yours?
They are persistent. They came here at least 5 or 6 times, and nobody was.
And then you look at the prison. We haven't even talked about the prisons, how the prisons relate to this. How can you have prisons in this country where majority of the people look like us, and the prisons are located in communities that don't look like us, and are counted toward the population in those communities that don't look like us? Dollars follow them prisoners. Federal dollars follow every one of them prisons.
And look at this. Let's talk about the current events right quick before we proceed to close. Like right now, we got the bridge in Baltimore, the Francis Scott Key Bridge, that was knocked over by that ship. And then that's one major issue that's going on in this country. And then you have Biden pledging to rebuild that bridge with taxpayer money. Any comments on that?
Well, I think to him, it's unfortunate that there was loss of life. I think they're still trying to figure out was it an act of sabotage, uh, because it's just kind of ironic that what happened and the manner in which it happened. I do think the federal government has a role to play in it. I just don't think that. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon because it's got to go through Congress, whatever funds are allocated. And I don't think they're going to do nothing prior to the elections in terms of federal dollars.
Now, there are thousands of bridges right now, and they're hurting because they need to get fixed.
I mean, look at all the bridges. I mean, every time we go home, we got to go over major bridges. I mean, we got to cross the Mississippi. I'm
Okay.
petrified when I go through them bridges in Louisiana.
And then they only want you to go 55 on the bridge.
Yeah, as if that's gonna, some hit one of those pillars or something.
Yes. I know you know the bridge going to New Orleans. That
Yeah,
5 mile bridge long, but I go across that bridge running 100 because I don't want to be on that damn bridge at all. That's too much bridge for me.
I tell you, do you ever go over the one in? Well, you have to when you go home to Mississippi. Don't you have to cross some big bridges? What part of Mississippi you grew up in?
I'm up in the Mississippi Delta, so I go up 20, and then I get to Vicksburg. I go across the Mississippi in Vicksburg.
Yeah, that bridge is fairly new in Vicksburg, right? I mean, it's recently built. I mean,
25 years old, maybe.
yeah,
Maybe it ain't that old.
yeah.
But
As far as bridges go, it's not that old yet. That thing used to terrify me. I used to drive when I was living up in Dallas. I used to drive that. I used to go through Vicksburg in that old bridge, and man, that used to terrify me.
with damn pillars. That's what we had to endure. But it's so much money available for these bridges to be fixed. And the Francis Scott Key Bridge is really old. And I'm just surprised to know that we're still honoring this man who said that slavery is inevitable. And if you don't want to be a slave, you need to be free. That's what the second paragraph means. It's something about that national anthem. And I stand with Colin Kaepernick right now. I deal with him. I stand with Kanye West and Kyrie Irving, all the people who tried to make a point but got taken out because they said something. And that seems to be the trend when it comes to a black person opening their mouth against this system that we have in place here in America. I don't understand why it is so difficult for them to realize what they've done to our people and start to fix it. They're never going to fix it. I don't
Uh,
see it ever happening unless we demand it and start putting our money out of their pockets and in ours. That's the only way we're going to get this change around. When we realize we don't need to be spending our money in their stores. That's it. But then they make it so we don't own a damn thing. So we have to go spend it in their stores. With that, this has been the Black News Network. We've talked about building a black state here in America. And I'm going to ask Mr. Claude to give us his closing statement, and we will proceed.
well, I want to thank all the listeners for listening today. You know, the bottom line here is what we're advocating for is the migration of large numbers of African members of a single large numbers of people to a single state for the express purpose of effecting the peaceful political takeover of that state. And I think it's doable. I think it's a strategy that will work. Uh, like I say, a peaceful takeover, not a violent takeover,
Right.
but a peaceful takeover
But if it's a fight, it's a fight.
for through the elected process. That's the only thing that we got to hang our hat on is politics. We're not going back to Africa. We've tried that. We we we're not gonna rebel. I mean, because we're American. I mean, you got some Black Americans. You got some Americans. They say well, they don't even acknowledge their African heritage anymore. I'm a Black American. I'm American, and so it's probably tougher now, Brother Bay, than it was back in the day during the abolitionist time. It's probably tougher to get into that black mindset with that white mask on. Because back when the abolitionists were telling them about talking to them about freedom, I don't think they had a white mask on. So I think that trying to remove that cover today to get to that sense of what it means to be black in this country is a little bit more difficult. But I would encourage people to read "The Devil That You Know" by Charles Blow. Uh, and if you have any questions, you obviously you can reach out to Mr. Blow or you can contact this show. But I think this is a movement, a strategic strategy that I think will give us a sense of ownership in the country that we've invested so much in. So I want to thank you for allowing me to share those viewpoints and views about the direction that Black folks should take if we're going to run the country, which I think we are.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Claude Foster. I really appreciate you being on the show today and expressing your thoughts about building a black state. This is the Black News Network, the real voice of Black USA, broadcasting on a weekly basis every Sunday at 3:30. If you haven't already, please subscribe to us on YouTube and like us on Facebook and all that other stuff that goes along with you becoming a member of us. As long as America does what it does, and that's basically they'll starve you. They'll starve you now. Think about it. Black people have been starved to a point where they are desperate to get their hands on any damn thing. I mean, black people have been denied every damn avenue of success there is. And when some of us overcome those barriers that they put in front of us, then they want to buy us out. And many of us take the damn bait, and we are no longer fighting for our people, but we are just enjoying ourselves with the money that they have bribed us with. Life is bigger than money. And if we are allowing out there, the so-called leaders of today are allowing people, allowing white people to entice them to leave their culture behind, to become them. And then as soon as they get you so far out of what you were trying to do, now they abandon you. Just like Walmart, that's what 80/20 do. They get you away from your foundation, and then they throw your ass to the wolves. That's exactly what they did. But anyway, we'll talk about that on another day. This is the Black News Network, the real voice of Black USA, broadcasting 3:30 at 3:30 on Sunday. We really do thank your participation. We thank your viewing, and we thank your input. And again, to my co-host, Mr. Claude Foster, thank you for joining our show. With that, see you next Sunday. We also have a broadcast at Monday at 6 p.m., which will be a different broadcast than this one. So look at our broadcast for Monday. Look for us on Monday at 6 p.m. Thank you.